In today's video, I'm going to show you how we're going to be able to manipulate Stormclaw so we can progress further in AoZ once we hit a damage wall. You've probably heard people talking about Shred, and it is true, the math on Shred makes it to where Shred is extremely strong. But I'm personally not a big fan of Shred builds normally, so what I've done for you guys is taken Stormclaw and modified it so that we're going to have Blurred Beast and we can get that damage without changing our gameplay style. I actually think this might be the stronger way to go, because there's so much utility and survivability that comes with Stormclaw, which is something that's a little more lacking with Shred. So real quick, let me draw your attention to the numbers over on the side of the screen. Because of the new tiers of Blood Glyph, most builds are going to be like the bottom numbers there, 100 times about 40. That'll be more or less depending on which board you put it on and what class you're on. So in that example, let's say it's a build that's normally doing 100 damage. The tiers of Blood Glyph is going to make it to where you're doing 4,000 damage. Now in the top example, let's say we were only doing 2.5 of the damage instead of 100. That's a measly little amount. But because of the way Blurred Beast works, we're actually going to be doing that times 40 like everyone else, and then times 40 again. That's because we're getting the times 40 on our initial poison, and then another times 40 when we use the Blurred Beast. So instead of multiplying that base amount, we're multiplying something that's already been multiplied. As you can see, even if we did 2.5% of the damage that anyone else is doing, we're still going to be doing the same amount because of the glyph. Now I'll put a link to this build underneath the video. You can also find it if you go into my Mobalytics profile from any other build. But I'm going to wait to publish this until AoZ comes out, just so we don't cause any confusion for people. But I did want to get this out there so you guys can start preparing for what you might need. So if you've been running any of the Stormclaw builds, this is all going to look fairly similar. In this video, I'm not going to get in all the details of how the build's going to work, but for a quick summary, we're going to be applying poison with our Poison Creeper, our Endariel's Visage, and some passive poison from our claws and our toxic claws. Our insane attack speed combined with the Great Staff of the Crone is going to give us that healing we need in order to keep our temerity barrier maxed. The reason I opted for temerity in this build instead of Tybalt's Will is because of the new information that if you die, your entire run is ended. So I want to make sure we have the survivability we need to be able to go through it without worrying about that. I'm not, however, going to dip us into the low life builds, and only as a last resort will we consider using a Sea-Lig. Now I highly recommend that you farm an Endariel's Visage before the new content comes out, but if you don't manage to get one, don't worry, this build will still function. Do yourself a favor and hang on to any good legendaries for the helm, just in case you don't get one. Now for aspects you might want to hold on to Aspect of Disobedience, Aspect of Might, Rapid Aspect, Blurred Beast, Conceited, and Ghostwalker. If you don't have a Ghostwalker, Craven can be a decent substitute as well. I'm planning on running Hunter Zenith in this build just so that we don't have to worry about that survivability. That ring is going to allow us to use our Debilitating Roar all the time. That's huge damage reduction, Fortify, and activating our Vigilance passive. You might notice that I decided not to include Flicker Step in this version. That's partially due to the fact that I want that Werewolf armor because we don't want to end up dying. The fact that a death ends our run completely means survivability becomes very important. Make sure that you take a look at the detailed stats as well by clicking on this here. Some things that might be particularly useful is having double armor stats on your amulet, but if you can't pull this off, you can always have damage reduction instead of total armor. You'll also preferably want to have a pair of boots that has a resistance on it that is not lightning or poison. We max out our lightning and poison resistances from our Paragon boards. If you have that resistance here, it's going to free up one of our accessory slots, so you can put a skull there instead. If you're currently on Perfect Stormclaw, this is probably going to be an easy transition for you when it comes to the Paragon boards. So besides the glyphs that are already in Stormclaw, you might want to preemptively level some of these other glyphs, just so you have them ready for the build. The glyphs you're going to want to level are Tracker, Wilds, and potentially Bane. Keep in mind that until I put my detailed video out, this is just speculative and some of this might change. One of the things I would love to do is include the Heightened Malice legendary node because this is going to double dip, and we found out that the end bosses is actually 3 bosses, not 1 big boss. That means potentially we could get the Heightened Malice node for those bosses. But hopefully this video helps you guys prepare for the future, and feel free to let me know if you have any feedback because I'm still in the process of perfecting this one. But I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure Stormclaw can go as far as any other build. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Daddy Druid out of here.